7 p.m. So if everyone would join us for the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll begin our meeting.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for our first of two school board meetings in the month of September. I know some people are just so excited to be here that we can't just get away with one. So later in the month, we'll have our annual tax rate hearing and a little, maybe short agenda for a board meeting. But tonight, we have a pretty healthy agenda. And first off, we're pleased to welcome someone we get to see only once a year, unfortunately. But I'll let Eddie Madison, our coordinator of Physical Education and Health, introduce our special guest.
Good evening, Ms. Stover, Dr. Schneider, President Todd, Board of Education. My name is Eddie Madison. I'm the Health and PE Coordinator here in Parkway Schools. And tonight I have the honor to introduce someone who has made an impact in our community not only through the fundraising and opportunities that we have in our schools, but also an impact in our own community from an education standpoint. Carrie Bockert is here from the American Heart Association, and she is going to kind of break down the impact that our students have had in our community and the impact that the fundraising that occurs in the buildings, how that impacts our community. Carrie Bockert.
I don't normally get such a warm welcome, so thank you. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. Special thank you to Eddie. He is truly a champion for heart health and for the American Heart Association. I work with a lot of different school districts, and when it comes to PE and health coordinators, you always go above and beyond, so I appreciate it. So I just want to give you a special shout out in front of your bosses here this evening. So, I forgot my clicker. So as Eddie said, I'm here just to celebrate. I know school boards, a lot of times you get a lot of negative emails and things, so it's always fun to just celebrate the great things that are going on in your school. So I'm here for a year of review. So if you can see up on the screen, your school district and the schools that participated were one of 16 or over 16,000 schools that participated in Kids Heart Challenge across the country. And so we like to say that we are empowering students to embrace heart-healthy habits, build character, and make a real impact in their community. And as you can see, the American Heart Association has made some significant impacts for our 101 years that we've been around. A few things that I want you to think about. 1 in 3 Americans are impacted by heart disease. So if you think about that, you probably know someone that's been impacted, had a heart attack, a stroke, something along that lines. And we also know that it is the #1 killer in the United States. So we think it's super important that students learn how to be heart healthy and also become lifesavers. Since we have been around since 1924, cardiovascular disease deaths have gone down, been cut in half, which is a pretty significant impact. We educate over 20 million people across the country in hands-only CPR. So you'll see some stats about that as well. And then also right here in St. Louis, I always say we're three-pronged, right? We are a research institution, right? We fund a lot of research. We're actually #2 past the United States government for heart research. We do a lot of advocacy, so we're working with lawmakers on laws that we think are heart-healthy laws, and then we work with education, so that's where I fall in. Right here in the St. Louis area, we're funding over, almost over $10 million in research studies at WashU and St. Louis University. So right here in St. Louis, we are definitely making an impact. We also work with areas that have a nutrition insecurity and providing that at community centers, we're helping people to have access to healthy lifestyles. We're also working on blood pressure screening in some of our areas that struggle in that area. So the main reason why I'm here today is to share the amazing job that Parkway School District does. But but I want to highlight up at that heart. When students register for Kids Heart Challenge, they have the opportunity, the family, to say, yes, we are a heart survivor, and we want you to know it, and we feel passionate about this. Not every family identifies themselves. They like to keep it, just like FERPA, they like to keep it to themselves. But in Parkway, there's 13 self-identified heart survivors. So I thought that might be something interesting for you to know right here, why it's important to your community. There were over 13 schools that participated. 7,300 students and families were exposed to hands-only CPR and the signs of a stroke. Almost $65,000 was raised by Parkway School District, which was amazing. Give yourselves a round of applause. That's worth it. And we like to say our lowest research studies start at $25,000. So your school district funded over 2 research studies last year, which is amazing. And then we, in turn, give back to Parkway, so $6,500 in U.S. Games, and give back for PE equipment and supplies for a playground were given. And then Parkway is ranked. We do have a friendly competition. We know that we like to do that in Missouri or in St. Louis, and Parkway was number 4 in the state of Missouri for their impact with the American Heart Association. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And these are the schools that participated last year. And what I want to highlight there is look at that lifetime dollars amount. That is amazing. When you look at that impact over the years, so some of these schools have been participating with us for 20 to 30 years. So when you add that up, that's such a significant impact that they're making in the lives of so many people in their community. A couple things I just want to share. When schools partner with us, they have the opportunity to use our educational resources. They have access to a website. And it's not just housed in the PE arena. It's things that your counselors can use, brain breaks that the classroom teachers can use, your school nurses can use. So we like to say this is for your whole school. It's not just housed in the PE arena. All your schools have access to apply for grants through the American Heart Association. We actually had a neighboring school district that won a grant, actually 2 this year, one for pickleball, and they're doing pickleball with the students and the staff, so it's kind of a fun activity. And then finally, we offer to all staff, not just PE and health, all staff have the opportunity to join us in our educator leadership series. So that's another resource that we provide for all the schools. This past year, we were pretty involved with state of Missouri with the emergency law that was passed on the Cardiac Emergency Response Plan. So that's something that we've been working with MEMSA and Project Adam to help school districts roll things out. And Dr. Schneider and I were talking, and we're waiting on some final information to be able to provide some help with school districts as they're coming up with their plans as well. And then finally, I just want to focus on these 3 stats, right? So just the need for involvement with the American Heart Association and just with having quality health and PE programs in schools. You know, 1 in 5 kiddos, less than 1 in 5 survive if they do not, a cardiac arrest survive if CPR is not administered, okay, which is pretty significant. And then less than 20% of kids in the United States get the daily average physical activity they need, 60 minutes a day. And then finally, depression and anxiety has increased. It has doubled in the past decade, which is pretty significant. And we know when you're moving, what's released in your body? Endorphins. You're whispering to me. You knew the answer there, right? So we know that movement is important, right, for mental health for everyone. So now more than ever, we just say that we need your help, right? And so there's 3 ways I encourage you as a school board to help us out. Celebrate your schools, right? So when you're visiting schools and you see PE teachers and you know they participate, please say thank you. It's extra work that they're doing to partner with us, but it's great work. And they're creating fun activities for their students, every year. Second of all, just continue to study or continue to support state and national legislation that promotes heart health and getting kids moving. And then finally, we're gonna have a little quiz today. We are going to review, this is gonna become your annual checkup from Carrie. So I do this with my other school boards I participate or partner with. we're going to have a little annual checkup on the steps of hands-only CPR and the signs of a stroke, because I would not be doing justice if I wasn't out educating everywhere I go. So when I say hands-only CPR, how many beats per minute should you be pressing hard and fast on the center of the chest? And if you're in the medical industry, you cannot answer. 100, yep, 100 to 120 beats per minute. And we like to use the song Staying Alive, right? But I wanted to share Baby Shark is another song you could sing in your head. Or I Want to Dance with Somebody by Whitney, or Ice Ice Baby by Vanilla Ice, or Can't Stop the Feeling by Justin Timberlake. So maybe one of those songs will come to your mind with hands-only CPR. And then my other quiz tonight is FAST. FAST is the acronym to help you with if you think someone's having a stroke. So you remember F means what? Face drooping. Good, you guys are good. A for arm weakness. S for
Smile.
no, you're close. Slurring speech. And T, time to call 911. And I'm going to share a quick story. This summer, I don't even know if Eddie knows the story. I was driving with my mom, and we were on the outer road on 44. She lives in Eureka, and it was a super hot day. And I looked over at her, and she kind of had mush mouth. And I looked over. She had a stroke in the front seat of my car, and she's fine. She's fine. But I knew what to do, right? And so I just think it's so important that we educate as many people as we can in hands-only CPR and the signs of the stroke, because you never know when you're going to save someone's life or help to save their life. With that, I'm going to share a video about a Heart Ambassador named Ridge. Every year, we have National Heart Ambassadors. I got to meet him this summer. He's a delightful little guy. We have 7 ambassadors across the country. We actually have one here in Missouri, and I have a special message from them to you all. And hopefully it works.
How would you describe your brother, Ridge?
American Heart Association, thank you so much for helping families or kiddos like Ridge and the many families and kiddos that are in your school district. Thank you, guys, and good luck with your school year. I heard it's off to a great start.
It is. Carrie, I just want to thank you on behalf of the board. We look forward every year to hearing your report and how Parkway is making a difference for your organization and people around our area. I'm a little disappointed we've slipped down to number 4. So I challenge all of our schools to maybe pick up the slack and reach out to that unfortunately short list of less than half of our schools that are participating. So hopefully we can increase that number between now and next year. And I'll also mention when Dr. Schneider's predecessor and I would meet with our fire chiefs and police chiefs regularly. One of the things that they periodically mention is an app called Pulse Point. And if you're CPR trained and you download that app, you can get a notification is like within seconds that a 911 dispatch center receives a call for life-saving need, usually in the case of CPR. And oftentimes, every time it will send an alert to your phone if you're within a certain radius of the site where that person needs CPR. And so the design is that a random stranger could be there minutes before EMTs and help participate in saving that person's life. So it's important stuff.
Yep, thank you for sharing that. And thank you for the plug. I can say that I have meetings with 3 additional schools next week. So I'm hoping to have more on board as well. Thank you.
Thank you again. All right, next up, we will move on to the rest of our agenda. 7.0 is additions, corrections, and/or modifications. Those include 7.01, addendum to agenda item 11.08, approval of personnel items. 7.02, update to agenda item 11.18, approval of the Branson On Stage live trip. West Middle updated the dates of their trip. That was the need for that update. 7.03, addition of agenda item 11.30, approval of purchase Science Resources 2024. We have no citizen speakers tonight, so we will move on to 9.0. That's the approval of our agenda. We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda for the regular meeting of the Board of Education as scheduled for September 10th, 2025.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. The next regular board meeting will take place on Thursday, September 25th, 2025, beginning at 7 p.m. here at the Parkway Welcome Center. As I mentioned before, Parkway's annual tax rate hearing will be held that same evening, beginning at 6:30 p.m. Next up is 10.03, board and superintendent reports. Matt, start us off.
I'll just be quick with one thing. Seems like we've had a very good start to the school year, and I think one of the apprehensions we had coming into the school year was a cell phone policy. I think we're all very pleasantly surprised how well it's gone, not just in Parkway, but other districts too are experiencing the exact same thing. And then I actually had a high school teacher tell me the other day that they're mad because it's so loud now in the lunchrooms because the kids are off the phones. So I am just pleasantly surprised that we have something coming out of Jeff City that actually is beneficial to us. So that's all I have.
To piggyback off that, it does seem like everyone's having a great start to the school year. I had the pleasure of visiting around 8 schools at the beginning of the year, between elementary, middle, and high, just to see how things were going and how the summers were. Everyone's firing on all cylinders. The students all seem to be happy and enthusiastic about coming to school every day. Was able to attend a couple of football games the past couple of weekends. I have to give a shameless plug. On Monday, the Parkway Central JV had a game, and my wife recently started the middle school dance team, and they had their first performance at halftime, and my daughter was in it, and they did a very good job, so shameless plug there. Other than that, it's been, like I said, a great start to the year, and looking forward to another great one.
Yeah, it's been a busy month. School started. I've got 2. My oldest is starting at Northeast this year, so 6th grade, new middle school, and he's loving it. And so, good for him. Really likes lunch because he gets pizza every day with ice cream. So, whatever. Yeah, heart healthy, right, yeah, exactly. Since our last meeting, one thing we did shortly, just a few days actually after our last meeting, we did a facilities tour the week before school started, where we were able to go to Riverbend, north, and kind of drove by Northeast to see the progress of all the construction that's, and Craig, construction going on there, and it's really great to see all the progress that's been made on those schools. We still got a lot to go with the other locations, but I tell you, in Craig Elementary, I don't know if anybody gets an opportunity, but I mean, what the contractor and the designer was able to do with that school, it's like a brand-new school where the kindergarten classes are. So just really glad to see that progress and looking forward to seeing more progress as the years roll out.
I'll be brief. I was able to go to one school so far. I plan to get to other schools to visit those throughout the rest of this year. But I did get a chance to go to Craig. This was my first time going to Craig Elementary, and I was able to attend with Dr. Schneider, and we had a good tour by the principal there. And I want to just wish everyone a good start to the school year. I also had, as far as the cell phone policy, my children are in the West District, and my son is at West High. And I got a chance to talk to Dr. McCabe at Open House, and he said that everything is going very well. And one of the teachers actually had to bring out her Play-Doh during ACT Lab because kids were no longer on the phones, and it was the first ACT Lab of the year, so there was no homework to do. So, but because of that, my son signed up for her ACT Lab class the next time to go back and play with some Play-Doh.
Well, these are all pretty redundant, but I'll just say the same things everybody else just said. It's a fun time of the year when school starts. Personally, we've got a child in 5th grade and 8th grade, so it's the last year in buildings and the last year of having a child in grade school. But they're all excited. Everybody seems happy. The cell phone ban seems to be going well, and I did want to follow up, but the facilities tour was really incredible. So we have what do we call them? The construction manager, Mrs. Peckard. The relationships they build as part of the construction project is what really stayed with me from that experience. The way, it's not just a construction project that happens to be in a school. It's a construction project that's working together with the school. And, school construction projects are complicated in that, those are buildings where kids are educated, and you got to squeeze a whole lot of work into the summer or work alongside the teachers to make sure that, the students are disrupted as little as possible. And I think we really have a good relationship there. It sounds like these projects all succeeded because of that collaboration. But what really blew me away is how they all seem to come down to the absolute wire of, the last pieces come in on Sunday so that we can serve lunch on Monday. But as far as I can tell, everything came off great, and I think that's really, really remarkable.
Yeah, I agree. The beginning of school is always fun to go on the construction tours, to see the huge progress that's being made with all of our bond work that our voters have passed. So we greatly appreciate all of that support so that we can keep our facilities up and running, and our pools are getting renovated, which were sorely needed. And so we're moving forward with all of that. And yes, kudos to Putker Construction for making sure that, yes, we can meet that very difficult deadline. I too visited several schools on the first day and accompanied with Mr. Todd and Dr. Schneider, and that was a lot of fun to see everybody's so happy and everything's fun on the very first day. I also attended the TLA subcommittee meeting that Dr. Becker and his team in TLA had with us, and I believe Mr. Schindler was at, and Mr. Kilper was there as well. So that's always a great opportunity to become updated with the work within the TLA administration as to what we're doing with curriculum and advances in our various different updates that will be taking place. I also attended the Missouri School Board Association's Region 7 meeting last week. This is a meeting that encompasses the school board members from multiple school districts throughout this region of Missouri for MSBA that include Jefferson County, St. Charles County, all of St. Louis County, and some of St. Louis City. And it was very informative. We did talk about no phones in schools policy. Everybody seems to really are happy about that and no problems. The other issue that public schools are in the process of needing to navigate has to do with homeschooled, family-paced education and full-time virtual school students living in our district, having the opportunity to participate in various different events, including athletics and events, fine arts activities, and a variety of co-curricular activities like National Honor Society, Scholar Bowl, DECA, et cetera. So as our school district, these are individuals who would come to the district asking to participate. We don't go out inviting them, but they are now welcome, and we will do what we need to do to be able to include them in our district activities now. The other things that, are always high on the agendas of conversation have to do with funding, public education, both the threats and the demands on our budget and expenses. So we all continue to evaluate and look at and assess what's happening at funding at both the local level with taxes, with the state level, possible changes with our funding foundation formula and the overall state budget, and how much money comes to public education, and also at the federal level with the IDEA program for our special education students and different Medicaid funding, things of that nature, and even some Title I money is in the process of being discussed. So, and then having to manage all that on top of our increasing expenses regarding medical expenses, food services, property insurance, malpractice suits, et cetera, like that. So legal matters that we have to deal with. So it can be a demanding process to try to juggle all of this, but we have solid teams here in Parkway that do just that and have every confidence that we'll continue to be good advocates of our legislators and keep up good partnerships with our various different communities, which I did attend this morning with Dr. Schneider and some of the other cabinet members within administration, our mayors and city administrators meeting today, which is always a wonderful opportunity to talk to county council members, various different mayors. Chesterfield was participating today, Baldwin, Creve Coeur, De Pere. I think that's it. And so we had a wonderful attendance, and it's always a nice opportunity for two-way communication to update them on what's happening with our districts and for them to update us on the things that are going on in their areas that may affect, likely will affect our school district. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'll just reiterate a couple of things. The back-to-school visits, not just opening day, but Dr. Schneider and I were able to welcome back different groups of people, coaches, counselors, nutrition specialists, special educators. It's always great to be with those employee groups before school starts because they haven't been inundated with kids yet, and they're still genuinely excited, and not biased by some of the groups that they get once school starts. But during our school visits, I agree, Matt, the level of engagement with kids not having cell phones was just thrilling to see. We were in a lunchroom or two in high school, and the volume was refreshing, and passing periods, we got caught in some passing periods, and I've heard that the kids are back to passing notes now. So what goes around comes around. So that was good. Facilities tour, as some have mentioned, Petker Construction has been a great partner thus far, and we had a great time seeing the work that's been going on. And lastly, I'll just mention, I don't know what the cutoff is, but if you're an employee of Parkway and you haven't completed your Safe Schools training, that's required. I do it every year just because I like to see, what we expect our employees to know and be aware of in order to be in a classroom or around kids. And if you paid attention during the CPR module, both of her trivia questions were answered in that module. So there's value in that. So.
Well, thank you all. With many of the things that you've said, I've joined you on, so the facilities tour, the visits to some of our classrooms this fall, at the very first week of school, as well as some of the visiting of employee groups as they got excited about starting the new year. So I echo all that I heard. I have a short list of things that I've been able to get out and do that have excited me, and I've really felt the Parkway pride since the beginning of the school year. I just knew that as soon as the kids came back, just the electricity, it was like it got turned on in the district. It was just amazing to see the kids and the families. Like you heard, I've been in every single school the first week of school, and that was accompanied by many board members at some of those visits. It was a great first week of school. I was able to attend the North High School band and color guard performed at the Cardinals game the second week of school, and it was very nice to see the parents and the kids. They were so proud of how they played, and they stuck around. It was really nice to sit with them in the stands and visit with them, get to know them a little bit more. I also attended my very first Parkway sporting event, which was a girls volleyball match between Central and South High School. And I will tell you, those young ladies are amazing athletes. I couldn't believe how long they could hold a volley, and it was just a very exciting game. I stayed much longer than I had planned because I had planned to do two things that night at least, and so that I drove quickly over to West High School and met up with Ms. Hopper and saw not only the cheerleading squad and heard the marching band play there, but they swept their opponents that night too. So we have some very talented athletes here at the Parkway School District. I am looking forward to the Parkway Alumni Golf Tournament, which is upcoming on this Saturday, so hopefully we'll talk about that next time. As Ms. Hopper mentioned, we hosted a lot of the city administrators and mayors of the municipalities that share Parkway School District, and overwhelmingly felt just a need to be able to connect and support each other during this next school year. We have a couple of new mayors who attended, and that was really nice to get to know them as well. So I couldn't say enough good things about the past month and having the schools and the buses and everything come alive. So thank you.
Thank you. Next up on our agenda is 11.0, our consent agenda. We've all had an opportunity to review that, and so now may I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented in the September 10th, 2025 board meeting materials.
So moved.
Second.
Is there anything to be pulled to action or closed?
Yes, I would like to request 11.11 be moved to action. Can we do that?
11. Okay. Anything else? Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 11.11. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. And now, I believe now we'll go ahead, because our next item on the official agenda is 12.0, which is related to 11.11. Actually not. I'm sorry. So now, actually, if I could have Carrie, if you could join us. If you're the best person to talk to us about 11.1111, 11.11.
11.1111. So this action item is
Thank you. I was looking for the paper so I can say the exact name for it. This is our retiree Medicare Advantage prescription drug plan design. And so this is a benefit we offer to our retirees. We, as Parkway, act as a pass-through entity for Anthem and Aetna, correct? And so this is, we have no control over what these plans are charging for premiums. We just act as a middle, kind of like middle, not even management, just a middle entity to our retirees pay their premiums, and then we turn around and pay Aetna or Anthem for their prescription drug plan. This is just a courtesy or a service that we offer to our retirees. This is not something that they have to opt into, but if they choose to, they have that ability to apply and use those services. If they do ever have any questions regarding those services, we direct them then to either Anthem or Aetna to answer those questions. What questions can I ask? What questions may I answer?
So could you clarify, is this part of the conversation of what we'll be discussing in 12.01 about the employee benefit plan design and providers that includes what the premium increases will be for retirees?
No, this is specifically for retirees who are on Medicare.
Only for Medicare?
Yes, so this is, yes.
Okay.
65 or older. So this does not include our retirees that are on our self-insurance fund plan with United Healthcare.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So may I have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda item 11.11?
So moved.
Nope. Hold on,
I'm sorry.
it's okay. Where am I going?
I got it. Here, 12.01. Here,
12.01.
here.
Oh, because we've now made it an action item. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yes. So I just need to rephrase that.
Okay.
You just need to rephrase the motion.
Okay. So may I have a motion and a second to, and we're going to call that, what are we calling that? 12.00, 12.0.5?
That's fine.
May I have a motion and a second to approve action item 12.001? Previously known as consent agenda item 11.1.
So moved.
Second.
We just
All
screw
in
that up,
favor?
didn't you?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Now, we are at action item 12.01, approval of 2026 employee benefit plan designs and providers.
Correct.
Back to Carrie.
Thank you. Wrong way. Okay. So last month, we came to you with the benefit committee with some recommendations during our working session. So now we're bringing this recommendation to you tonight. The slides that you're seeing tonight are recaps of what we shared with you in our working session with some edits that we have based on some recommendations that you guys brought to us. So this is a chart that should look familiar. This shows our self-insurance fund balance back for 10 years, 2015, and it shows what the fund balance was at the end of each plan year, which a plan year starts January 1st and goes through December 31st. So it does not correlate necessarily with the school year. It is a calendar year. And so this shows where we are projected to be at the end of plan year 26 if we do nothing. And I like to point out that we are only even in that position because thank you, Jason. We are only in that position because the board generously allowed us to supply our self-funded insurance fund with $7.5 million from our operating account. So in FY25, we moved $2.5 million into our self-funded insurance, and in FY26, we'll be moving $5 million into our self-funded insurance. And so and even with that, this is where we would be at the end of plan year 26 if we do nothing.
So we moved $5 million for 2026.
FY '26. So this goes back to the plan year doesn't align with the school year. So $7.5 million is going to go into plan year '25. But $2.5 million will be from FY '25 and $5 million will be from FY '26 fiscal years.
Got it.
So, yeah, because plan years are calendar,
So
January
there was
1st.
the calendar year of 2025.
Correct. But the $7.5 million was split over 2 fiscal years.
Got it.
So the recommendation that the Benefits Committee brought to you last month was that we increase the district premiums by 25%, which would bring us a $5.4 million extra revenue to our self-funded insurance. They recommended that we increase our employee premiums by 15%, which would generate a $700,000 revenue generation. And then during this process, that would mean that the retirees' premium would increase 25%, which would generate $500,000 in additional revenue. And then they also suggested that we add a $100 premium increase to the base, which is currently one of our free plans. So that would be $100 per month, which would generate $1,370,000 of additional revenue. And then there are some savings here for changes in the deductible in network and out of network and max out of pockets for both the base plan and the high deductible health plan. And then they also recommended that we remove GLP-1 weight loss coverage, which would be a cost savings of $1,230,000. And then we would eliminate the premium plan, which would be a savings of $430,000. So this would generate either revenue or savings of $10,910,000 for the self-funded insurance. And again, the thing that is important to know about this plan is even with these changes, Parkway would still be covering over 76% of the premium revenue that's generated for the self-funded insurance, and our employees would be covering or generating 24% of the revenue that goes into our self-funded insurance. So this is what then the next few slides show what it would look like per paycheck for our employees based on our 2 remaining plans, which was the base plan. So this base plan shows you what the per paycheck cost would be for a 24 pay period year. And this is for the base plan. This chart shows you on the left-hand side what our current plan year rates are. The middle columns are plan year 26, so what those new rates would be. And then the last 2 columns show you what the increases will be per employee or employer based on the tier that you have selected. So if you're just only paying for employee in plan year 25, you would be paying $0 per paycheck. But starting in January 1st, you would be paying $50 per paycheck. And so that shows that there's an increased cost of $50 for the employee, and the employer would have an increase, so Parkway would have an increase of $94.99 per paycheck based on this recommendation. Next is still for the base plan, but solely for the retirees. So this is per month because the retirees pay us per month. They pay us to put into the self-funded insurance. So again, on the left-hand side is our current plan year 25 and what they currently pay. The middle column is what plan year 26 new rates would be. And then on the far right is the at least it's my far right. Is it your guys' far right? Yes. My far right is the retiree increase that they would have per month. Next is the high deductible plan. And again, this is the per paycheck cost for a 24 pay period employee. And this again shows the first set of columns on the left-hand side is for 25 plan year, our current year. The second set is for 26 plan year and what they would be paying at the start of January 1st. And then again on the right shows what the employee increase is and the employer increase, Parkway increase. So again, if you look at the employee line, in plan year 25, they will pay per an employee $0, and in plan year 26, $0. This will remain a free plan for our employees, so that way we always have a cost-effective option for them. But the Parkway will still have an increase of that 25% that you see on the far right, where it's that $94.99 per paycheck that we would be increasing the premiums that we pay for them for that plan. I also like to note on this, because of the cost increases that we're doing with this premium plan, the district will also be increasing their contribution to the employees into their HSA savings account. And that annual amount will be $1,961. Here is the retirees per month premium cost. This again is, on the left is plan year 25, what they're currently paying. Plan year 26 is what they would start paying on January 1st, and then the far right is their monthly increase that they would incur under these new premium rates. This is a little different because we do not ask them to pay the $1,961 extra that the district chips in. So, this is a little bit lower than because normally how you can tell what a retiree is going to pay is by going and looking at what the employees pay, and you would say the employee plus Parkway equals what a retiree would pay. But in this particular case, that is not 100% accurate. It's a little bit less than that because we are chipping in for our employees an extra $1,961 into their health savings account. And so we don't expect them to have to do that. They can obviously pay as much into their high deductible health savings account that they want, but we don't require that. So what questions can I answer for you guys tonight?
Well, I'll just say first off, thank you for entertaining the questions that we've had both at last month's board meeting, and I know you've had a number of emails from many of us asking for additional information, different questions, and you've been great with getting back to us with all that information. One of my questions is, is there a way, there's probably not a way, but have we thought about, will any of these increases, or do we think any of these increases will cause either employees or retirees to move to a different plan that they may have an option on versus our plan? If we've thought of what percentage that could be, will that impact us positively or negatively, or we don't know?
That's an excellent question, and I would always advocate for our employees or retirees to always research the market and find the most cost-effective way for them. Because at the end of the day, that's what I care about for our employees and our retirees, is that they get the health care that they need and they get to keep as much money as possible in their pocket. That's what I would want for myself. That's what I want for our employees and retirees as well. So would that happen? It always is a possibility, but we are still a very rich program, and one of the things, other than the GLP-1 coverage, we're not changing our coverage, and so we have a very rich plan, and we cover a lot of benefits for our employees. So that's the bad thing about just looking dollar for dollar when you're looking at premiums, is that's not the full picture. Yes, you may be paying a certain dollar amount for your premium and another plan might be lower, but our coverage might cover more. And you might have to pay more out of pocket because the services that you want aren't covered under the other plan. So it's not a direct one-for-one that you compare just premium prices.
So in terms of the GLP-1, that's the only medication that has been singled out as being removed. Has there been any look at any other medications that are just as expensive?
Correct. So GLP-1s are, we're a very big topic, not only with our benefit committee, but also just with our employees. This is a topic that is very near and dear and personal to people when they have this conversation. So the reason why we brought this up is because GLP-1s consistently on our utilization report always end up at the top of the list, being one of our, outside of specialty drugs, being our highest expense in pharmaceuticals drugs that we cover. And so of our top 10, the GLP-1s are within 6 of the top 10.
Do you have an idea as to why that is? Is it, what's driving that cost?
I think it's, so GLP-1s is a relatively, for weight loss specifically, and let's even that out, because when we're talking about this, GLP-1s can be used for, it's becoming every day, and in a good way, every day I hear that GLP-1s can be used for a new chronic condition, and that's not a bad thing. We all want to be able to find cures and helps for these chronic diseases, but specifically when we're talking about GLP-1s for weight loss. And so I think the reason why we're seeing this increase is because it's becoming more prominent and more well-known, and more, and the benefits and that people are seeing from weight loss with it. There's evidence that shows that obviously does work for people, and it is a good pharmaceutical resource to help with a disease. So I think that the reason why it's increasing is because it's gaining popularity in the populace, and I think that's the reason why we're seeing the increase, is because it's becoming more well known that that's an option for people to treat their diseases.
I would also add that I think in the medical field and society, we're also seeing that obesity is a chronic illness as well, much like mental health and any other chronic illness that people have. So that does concern me, that we're removing that for weight loss, when it can be preventative of other chronic illnesses, in addition to helping with that particular chronic illness.
Correct. And I will say that my hope is that this is not a permanent removal, but we do need to see, we do hope that this pharmaceutical will decrease in price, and we do need to get our fund balance in a place that is sustainable and financially can cover all of our medical expenses. So I'm hoping that this isn't a one and done, and we'll never revisit this option again. And the other thing is, when our benefit advisory committee had lots of conversations around GLP-1s, and the main driver that got brought up multiple times was, but if we stop covering this, won't this then cause other chronic things that we see in our plan to increase? And the truth to that is, we can't with 100% certainty say yes, that will happen, because of the newness of GLP-1s being used for weight loss. There's just not long-term data to support that there's a risk-benefit analysis, to do the risk-benefit analysis of the long-term benefits that GLP-1s will cause. So for instance, there is a long-standing, long-term data that shows wellness appointments, for example, will help with catastrophic events, and they can help catch things early. And there is long-term data that supports that. And GLP-1s just aren't there yet. That doesn't mean that they won't get there. It's just that right now the data is not there to support that long-term strategy that says covering them in the long run will help reduce the risks and costs associated with that.
Can I ask a question on one of the other options that the committee had looked at, which was in our information, was option number 5, and it came to the $10.4 million target also. Why was that one not selected? Because that would have helped to have had coverage for the GLP-1s for weight loss. But then you have another line in there that talks about GLP-1 weight loss removal from preventative list savings. So what made the committee decide to not go with that option when it could have, and instead went with this option?
Yes, because The reason why they didn't go with that option was to be able to cover the savings that so with dropping GLP-1s, we would have that savings of $1,200,000. So if we didn't drop it and we kept it, we said, how can we make up for that? And so the way we can make up for that was we would have had to then, in addition, raise employee premiums an additional 24%. And then there was the other option within our formulary with our pharmaceutical our PBM, which is Express Scripts, within our formulary, we could have dropped it from the preventative list, which then would have created a savings on our high deductible plan. But even with that, to get to the same dollar amount, we would have had to have done that and then increased our employees' premiums again to keep that coverage.
Okay, so in essence, then it would have increased employees' premiums like 39%,
Correct.
right, in 1 year?
Correct.
Okay, all right. In order to, so including the retiree savings, now we're looking at our savings at a $10.9 million. And we're looking at a $10.4 million target.
Correct. And that's
Right.
just a forecast.
And that's
yes.
just to break even also. I admit, I'm having difficulties accepting the idea of not covering the GLPs because it's already been in place. It's one thing not to ever start it.
Right.
But once we've started it, and now we've got employees that are relying on it, seeing the benefits of it, and now to take it away, that just, to me, I'm having a very difficult time ethically thinking that that's the right choice to make. So with that, if we were to put back in the coverage for this, do we have enough? I'm coming up with something like $730,000 from a fund balance to cover that for 1 year to figure this out and see what our finances will be once we know better what this, the senior tax freeze issue will be. We know that there's some tax issues coming from the state possibly, and get that all kind of ironed out. And then we're still, I appreciate it's coming out of our fund balance from the district, but just for 1 more year to try to, and then we've got a budget task force that's coming. They're gonna be looking at everything in addition to employee benefits. So is that a possibility?
I think, so is it a possibility to pull more money out of our fund balance, like our general operations? Yes, but I think the things is, again, you have to say, what is the cost to that? So if we do this, what don't we do? So there's that equation that you have to think about it. I also think that the truth is we're running out of runway. Our plan year starts on January 1st, and we have open enrollment in November. And so we also need time to educate our employees on, for instance, if we go with this route and we drop a plan, there's a lot of education we would like to do around high deductible health plans. And so pushing it off, could we do it? I mean, yes, but it always comes with another cost. And I don't think I'm prepared tonight to answer that question. And I think to the full extent that it deserves. I'm happy to engage in that conversation, but I think that we're coming down to the wire, and with the conversations that we had with our benefit advisory committee, and then that we've had with cabinet, going that route would be something we could engage in, but would be opposite of the recommendations that we've had up to today.
So how would these employees manage without the GLP-1s? What are their options if we're not going to cover it?
That's an excellent question. And yes, because we do care that, you can't just stop GLP-1s cold turkey. Like there is a process where you have to come off of them. And so we do have a couple of things already in place. So one of the options that we have in place for folks is an option called Real Appeal. And so they're able to connect with a specialized coach, have group sessions, and do online tools to help them with their with obesity. And then we also have Lamongo, which is a digital health company that specializes in helping patients manage chronic diseases. So we also have that option. But then the big option that we were looking into and researching to be able to have in place for January 1st is with New Leaf Nutrition. And it would come out of our wellness budget because it was unspent. There was a portion of it that was unspent with United Healthcare. And so they allow us a wellness budget as part of our contract. And we can use those funds towards wellness activities. And we could use that towards because we have 220 employees currently on GLP-1s, which represents about 2.5% of our members. So of those 220 members, we would offer this service to them, and the first time they have that service, Parkway would pay for that service, and then any appointments that they would have afterwards would be covered under the medical plan.
And also with that, I guess to follow up with what Debbie was saying, obviously, they recommend a gradual taping off. Do we know how long? I mean, none of us are doctors here, so do we know what they recommend from a tapering, time frame? Will we have that time?
Yeah,
If, assuming we approve this today,
Right.
Is there that time?
Right, and so GLP-1s would be covered through the end of the
Right.
year. And so then their tapering off period for those employees our members would start in January. And each one of those could have an individual plan that looks a little different. So I'm not prepared to speak to all of them in total. So it could look different per person,
But I think the tapering off would have to start now.
Yeah.
Because they would not be eligible for the benefit, start January 1.
unless we allowed the tapering off of that.
And is that part of this, the tapering?
That is not part of this. That does not include that. That would be an additional expense to that.
Wait, what, the tapering would, what do you mean?
Because $1.2 million savings is if GLP-1s were to stop immediately. So if we
In
allowed
January,
those,
right,
yes, so if we allowed those
effective
employees the
January.
tapering off period, then that wouldn't be a full, it would eat into some of that savings.
One other question, is this just for the injectables?
This is for weight loss, GLP-1s, for weight loss in entirety. So,
So if somebody's taking GLP-1s for a
Diabetes.
specific chronic illness, those are still covered.
correct.
And do we know, or do we have any data, are there any other school districts that have this coverage currently?
The majority of not only school districts, but just the society at large is moving away from covering GLP-1s because of the expense associated with them. Very few are still covering them, and because they are just growing in, honestly, popularity, and so more and more members are getting on them, but we are seeing some shifts in the prices going down, but not at a dramatic rate. You actually, so for instance, you can actually still be on a GLP-1 outside of your insurance company, and there's actually a plan right now where you can get it for, that our insurance broker was telling me about, it's $499 a month, which is less than what we pay per month per employee.
So that would be something that these employees who use this just for weight loss could tap into.
Yeah, if they choose to, if they want to use their own personal funds that way, that is a
And
source
how
for
much do we cover it right now at 100%? Is that right? So,
Correct.
okay.
Well, there's deductibles and copays, but
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
depending on which plan you're on.
So what does it end up costing somebody per month to be on a weight loss?
Outside of being covered?
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you they average anywhere from, anywhere from $1,000 up to $1,800 per prescriptions, which is a monthly, it's a monthly or a monthly dose. So it's, yeah, that's what we pay for plan. And so they're different, there's multiple GLP-1s and each one has a different price.
I'll just share, I thank the committee for doing this work, because it is not easy making these decisions. And I kind of mentioned last time too, but the fact that this gets back to even for next year. There's no extra fund balance in there,
Correct.
if our projections are good.
Yeah,
And the fact that we could likely be back here again next year doing the exact same thing.
Well, and maybe you can just kind of speak to that. I know we've seen it in emails, but just looking long-term, right? What are the ideas to kind of look ahead and kind of plan for what the numbers are going to look like next year, year after? What kind of work can we do in the next few months or 6 months, whatever, to kind of plan for that?
yeah, and I think the biggest work with that will be with our budget task force, because this is gonna be a big topic. Because one of the things is, like when I came and I was presenting on our self-funded insurance and I was talking about the bucket, like one of the things in the budget task force that we'll be talking about is our buckets and what happens when a bucket becomes in distress. And so our self-funded insurance is there. We had to pump money into for plan year 25 of $7.5 million, which is quite a bit. And that just gets us to 2.8 million. So really the work there is with the budget task force. And I don't want to get ahead of their work, but I can tell you that we have to do something because, it used to be a bad plan year was, anything where you saw your medical expenses increasing by 10%. Well, we had a year where it increased 14%, and I am forecasting a 12% this year, and so far our medical expenses have exceeded that. We have on aggregate been averaging 17 to 18% increases from the prior year that had already increased 14%. So when talking to our insurance brokers, they were telling that the new norm to expect for medical expense increases from year to year is closer to 14%. So this is something that is just the medical costs are just exponentially across the board increasing. And that is not just a Parkway problem. That's a nationwide issue. I don't know, I have not interacted with a single person yet that hasn't said that they had some medical insurance costs increasing. There was even an entity that is a partner here with Parkway that had shared with me that they had a 100%, that's a doubling of their premiums in 1 year because they were so high. So this is not just a Parkway problem. I don't know if I want to say we're in good company, but we are not in a lone company. we have company in regards to these issues.
So has there been any thought in increasing the premiums for the high deductible plan for the employee? Because right now, that's the only one that has a $0.
Correct. So the high deductible plan, we actually don't set those, the IRS does. So every year they have chosen to increase that deductible. We try to minimize it as much as we can. So we do have control over the deductible for the dependent side of it, but the individual side, we can't control. The IRS sets that every year.
So the premium, so.
Oh, the premium, I'm sorry, I thought you said the high deductible plan.
Yeah, the high deductible plan, there's a $0 premium.
Oh, yes,
for the employee.
we are keeping that as, for the employee only as $0, so we have a cost-effective option for our employees. Since we used to have 2 plans that were free for an employee, we'll be going down to 2, only instead of offering 3 plans with 2 of them being free to employees, we are going down to 2 plans with 1 of them being a free option for an employee-only coverage.
So, how many, is that typical in school districts to have zero-only plans?
Yes.
Because I know a lot of corporate has moved away from zero-only plans like decades ago.
Yeah.
So this is a question that just popped into my head, but so I apologize for no preparation. Some of this has already been bantered about, but could the district pay 50% of the GLPs for weight loss? Or, I mean, is that?
That's
you know,
another
split
great
it
question
with
that
the
was also
employees?
entertained a lot at the Benefit Advisory Committee, because we really did try to do a lot of work to figure out how we could cover GLP-1s. We came up with multiple different options, and every time we brought it back to our broker and to ESI, we have a rather strict formulary with them. And so if we adjust that formulary, then we lose some massive rebates that are associated with GLP-1s. And so doing that would then just actually increase, because we would be losing about $3 million in rebates. And so instead of saving ourselves, like $500,000, we'd end up ultimately losing $3 million and making these costs go up even more.
Well, that was one of the other questions that I was wondering about is, what effect, if we don't cover this, what effect will that have on our formulary? And is that going to create any, but it doesn't sound like we're gonna have any issues with
No.
being able to provide
Correct, it's
on
basically.
continuing services.
Yeah, it's basically in regards to GLP-1s, it's kind of a black and white situation where it's either you cover all of them or you don't cover any of them. Now, we can't, like I mentioned earlier when I said, I hope this is not a permanent thing with our plan. When we go and negotiate for a new pharmacy provider, we can try to negotiate for a more flexible formula that maybe gives us the freedom to have those adjustments where we can say, well, we only want to cover GLP-1 weight loss under these circumstances. And we can do that. But when we were honestly negotiating with Express Scripts, we did not realize the extent to which GLP-1s were going to, one, cost us, and two, the restraints that formulary was giving us in order to be able to cover them.
So, and I might not be understanding, so there are different GLP-1s. There's, Wegovy, there's Zepbound, there's this other one that I don't even know the name of. So you're saying we have to cover all of them or none of them?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
And that's the formulary that we have with Express Scripts, that when we tried to get around that, and the options that we came up with, we came up with even things like, well, what if we just increase the co-pays for just for GLP-1s, or what if we cover the medicine but not the auto injectors? And every option that we came up with, it violated the formula, it violated it, and we would have lost the rebates.
But that's only if it's used for weight loss.
Correct.
So if it's used for other purposes, so we might,
Yeah, so one of the main reasons that GLP-1s are used for is diabetes, so that is still being covered.
And one thing I want to mention, that's a snapshot of today. I will be honest, I think if we did continue to cover it, we'd have a lot more people getting on next year. And our balance is going to diminish. Because you have employees who might know this is the final year of getting 100% coverage, and you're gonna have more people getting on it for the year. And so the 1.2 million is going to rise. It's just something to think about. I don't think that, I think it will get a larger amount. I think more people will get on it, and then we're in the same conversation every single year with this.
I don't know if more people would get on it, knowing that we're having this conversation where it might not be covered in the future, because if they're working with their doctors, which they should, their doctors will tell them that when you get on this drug, it should be a lifetime drug.
That's my understanding. I actually had my annual physical this morning and spent a good chunk of my time with my physician talking about GLP-1s for this very reason. And he confirmed this, this is a lifetime thing. And he also mentioned that this is by far the majority of his patients he's seeing. And he said the trend is just going up. It's just more and more people. And when I was in the waiting room, there were about 8 other people, and at least 3 of them were having a conversation about why they were there, and it was to get this prescription. Yeah, to.
It's a life, yeah.
To what Ms. Matt Franklin was saying, it's
See,
a
I've heard,
lifetime.
I've heard, I mean, I know I have relatives who are on it, and that they've heard differently. Like, it could be depending on what you're using it for.
It could be, and it could be a different prescription.
But I know people that, you gradually taper off of it once you've reached your goal, and then it's maintenance, not necessarily with the shot. So I've heard my doctor has said different things as well, so it's interesting.
But also, I think with the evolution of the way healthcare technology is going and the medical field is going, I mean, there was just an article today that talked about the various different problems, medical issues that are being found to be improved with the use of GLP-1s. So I see it as an evolving type of drug that even though we may not include it or cover it for weight loss, we may find that we'll still get an increase in it because of its use that could end up being FDA approved for other purposes. So I don't think this is probably, may not be a drug that's gonna go away. We're gonna continue to see it evolving. It's just like, other drugs that have happened in the past where you start using it for one thing and you find it's great for something else, and then they get approved for that purpose. So it might, and that's what bothers me a little bit about the cost of this, because it is so, some of them are very new. But that, where was I going with that thought? But anyway, my head's all spinning. That the idea that these are gonna continue to evolve and that we may just continue to see them grow because of, and hopefully get lesser expensive or go to a generic form, then they're just not there yet. They're so new and they're still learning so much about them.
You mentioned there could be an opportunity to negotiate with the prescription provider in the future. How often do we have those opportunities?
We are in our second year with a 3-year contract with Express Scripts.
Okay.
Well, plan year 26 will be our second year with Express Scripts.
Can you remind us how many people currently have this for weight loss? Isn't it like
220
Okay.
currently, which is,
Is
makes
that
up
just
about
the
200.
employees or their family members?
That is all, like, that's all belly buttons that are on.
Okay, so say an employee has a dependent on this medication. I know what you talked about with what employees can do with the Real Appeal or the New Leaf, the different, but what can their dependents do then?
The same thing, yes. Those resources are available to their
They're
dependents as
available
well.
to them as well, and the school district has the funds to cover them to go through that.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody have any further questions? All right, thank you very much for answering all of those questions and the many more that you have answered the past month. At this time, may I have a motion and a second that the Board of Education approve the plan options, service providers, and the monthly rates for participation in the Parkway Health Benefits Medical, Dental, Vision, Life, Disability, and Voluntary Program effective January 1st, 2026 through December 31st, 2026, as presented in the board materials.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please, Vicki.
Mrs. Hopper,
Yes.
Mr. Kilper,
Yes.
Ms. Mapp Franklin,
No.
Mr. Schindler,
Yes.
Mr. Seltzer,
Yes.
Mr. Spector,
Yes.
Mr. Todd.
Yes, motion carries 6-1. Next on our agenda, we have no policy review, we have no official reports. However, we have the first of a couple of work sessions. So I'd like to invite Kevin Beckner, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, and Aaron Crowley, John Duvall, and Alexis Lukey, Coordinators of Social Studies.
Well, good evening, President Todd, Vice President Hopper, Dr. Schneider, Mrs. Stover, members of the board. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about social studies tonight. In 2012, which seems like ages ago, there was a major social studies program evaluation that recommended a switch to an inquiry-based approach, so not just students memorizing content, but really engaging in social science practice. Just a couple years later, the state changed all the standards and said that we have to do our work differently, which led to quite a change in our work. From 2016 to 2019, our social studies teachers and curriculum teams redesigned the whole scope and sequence for how we teach social studies in Parkway in terms of which courses are offered at which times. In 2019, the board received a very detailed update about all of that work that was in progress. And then from that time until now, we've been operationalizing all of those new classes and writing new curriculum. I'm happy to say that all those classes are currently operational. So that has been a very long time frame to get to where we are tonight. And then in addition to that, this past year through our strategic plan, we've been updating our curriculum to ensure that we are clear about the outcomes for all students by creating essential standards, learning intentions, and success criteria for all of our classes. That's the context that brings us here tonight as Dr. Duvall and Dr. Lukey are going to share. Unfortunately, Erin Crowley couldn't be here with us tonight, but they will represent her thinking very well also. I do also want to thank, and it was mentioned in the board liaison reports, that Mrs. Hopper, Mr. Kilper, and Mr. Schindler participated in the Teaching and Learning Subcommittee and were able to offer input and ask questions about the program evaluation. And this time, I'll turn it over to Dr. Lukey and Dr. Duvall.
Good evening. Thanks for being here tonight. So Dr. Beckner, as he said, it's been a long journey to get to this point tonight, but we have the opportunity to present to you our targeted evaluation of the K-12 social studies program. Teachers were surprised to find out we were up for a targeted evaluation because of the delays with COVID and our updated curriculum. It felt like our hard work from long ago had finally taken root, and then we were coming back. But it's actually a great opportunity for us. Dr. Beckner stated we have a new curriculum framework we are putting into place, and that gives us the opportunity to target some particular areas that we want to study in terms of our original goals with our curriculum and to see how well those have been implemented. So with that, we have 4 goals that we are going to target and study this year. The first of those goals is our K-12 vertical alignment. So with our curriculum project, with elementary and secondary, having gone through 2 separate program evaluations, we now have an opportunity to look at how well our curriculum is aligned from kindergarten through 12th grade. Secondly, we want to study, because of the kind of fragmented nature of implementation as a result of COVID and the disruption, we have an opportunity to study like how well has it taken root in our classrooms? How viable is our curriculum across the board from kindergarten through 12th grade? We look forward to looking across our classrooms at that this year. We also want to look at the relevance. How relevant is our social studies curriculum to our students currently in our ever-changing world? We know things are changing rapidly, and we want to ensure that our curriculum is reflecting their real world, our real world, and ensuring relevance to them as they learn our content. Dr. Lukey?
So the 4 guiding questions that will lead us to find that work is really thinking about not only the curriculum, but it's how the curriculum's delivered and how the students engage and respond to the curriculum. So we're going to be asking 4 main questions, and John introduced the first 2, but not only thinking about the delivery of the curriculum, but then the learning that happens after that. So the assessment that happens and where our student achievement is. We're really excited to think through our 4 guiding questions and then gather research to help support it, as well as surveys and audits of our curriculum. We're bringing together task force by grade bands who will also look at each other's to see, do we have that vertical alignment to ensure K-12? We have observations planned, and then, of course, data collection and just analysis to be able to share our findings. I shared a little bit about the teams that are meeting. There are times we'll be meeting individually as an elementary team, a middle school team, a high school team, and as well vertically, just because that conversation, we know there's so much power in that. What questions can we answer?
I'm sorry, tell me what your timeline is again?
So we're starting task force this fall to be looking at different data, and then we'll be sharing with the board in April through a memo, since this is a targeted review of all those findings.
You're gonna compare us, what Parkway offers versus what neighboring districts, national districts.
So our guiding questions focus more on what we're doing and then
Okay.
comparing it to evidence-based research. Not necessarily surrounding districts, but what do we know is proven to work for students? One of the questions the board subcommittee asked was the resources we utilize in our curriculum, and we talked a little bit about this, that many of the resources we used are Parkway teacher developed, which has a different point of empowerment and engagement and relevance for the students that we serve. And with that, I think it would not be justice just to look around us, but to really think of those research-based practices.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay, well, we look forward to hearing what you uncover. Wish you good luck.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have another program evaluation targeted review, preliminary discussion. So we'll invite Lisa Tomich, our Chief Communications Officer, and Mike Christian, our Group Coordinator of Security and Emergency Management.
All right, good evening. Make sure this is down low enough. President Todd, Vice President Hopper, members of the board, Dr. Schneider, and Mrs. Stover, thank you for giving us a moment of your time tonight to kick off the targeted evaluation for our security department. I'm here with Mike Christian, our Coordinator of Security and Emergency Management. And for those of you who were on the board in 2021, you might remember that our predecessors conducted a program evaluation of our SRO program. This will be a targeted evaluation that's going to focus on the security department. So Mike and I are going to walk you through what our goals are for this evaluation, as well as guiding questions, main topics, research methods, and our timeline.
Here? There we go. Okay, so as we said, we are launching a target evaluation. And part of the goal is to ensure our structure, staffing, and strategies used by our security department are aligned with best practices and effectively support the safety and well-being of our students and staff. This will be an opportunity for us to clarify expectations and reimagine how our security department can best serve the schools given today's challenges. So the goals of our evaluation are going to be determine the expectations for the security department in the current landscape of school safety, assess whether the responsibilities align with the best practices. And best practice areas include physical security, emergency preparation, communication, safety culture and prevention, and then technology and monitoring. And then also we're going to determine how to attract and retain qualified candidates based on peer district research and develop strategies that align helping students feel safe, supported, and ready to succeed. Okay, so this is our security department. Just to give you a brief overview, 3 members of our department have 30 years of law enforcement experience. 2 of our SSOs, our school safety officers, were SRO, school resource officers, when they were working with the police department. As far as security experience, other members have over 20 years of experience in the security world. So we have a lot of experienced people working in this department. We also have a full-time dispatcher, day dispatcher, which has been great. It gives us consistency. Whoever is answering the phone, and he's well aware of all the procedures from taking phone calls from several people. As Elisa said, this is going to focus on the security department specifically. Part of the things that we do every day, patrol, we monitor surveillance cameras, we oversee the visit management system, we monitor the 24/7 safety tip line, and then we also respond to schools for various reasons. It could be threats, suspicious persons, to help with traffic, We've had some custody issues that we responded to last year, and we'll also go by and help with and monitor their emergency drills. And there's other things too. That's just a brief synopsis.
I'll touch on the framing of this evaluation. So in August, we met with more than 20 stakeholders representing all levels of our buildings, elementary, middle, high school, operations. We had the security team involved, student services, and Nathan Tyson facilitated a discussion in which they, I should say, identified main topics as areas of concern for this evaluation. And those are roles and responsibilities, daily operations and expectations, resources, staffing and retention, support and training, compensation, communication, and measurement evaluation. So from those topics, Mike and I took a look at the long list of questions that the participants came up with for each topic, and we synthesized those. And we developed these. So these are the guiding questions that we've chosen to frame the evaluation. What are Parkway's expectations of the security department, both in daily school operations and in its broader role in creating safe, supportive learning environments? How well do the department's responsibilities, practices, and use of equipment, resources align with best practices in school safety, and where are the gaps? What staffing levels, coverage, and role definitions are needed to ensure efficiency, clarity, and student staff safety? And how can Parkway recruit and retain qualified candidates? How can security better support staff and students through proactive presence, training, and relationship building? And then finally, how should security effectiveness be measured and evaluated? So you may have noticed that we had 8 main topics and 5 guiding questions. I just wanted to include this slide so you could see that every main topic aligns with at least one guiding question.
Okay, so for the evaluation methods, our research is going to include voices of many different stakeholders, internal reflection, and peer district benchmarking. So the stakeholder input is going to surveys and focus groups with staff, parents, and students on safety perception, security, visibility, and response. We're also going to conduct an internal review. That's going to be an analysis of our protocols, coverage models, training, dispatch and coordination with school administrators, SROs, and local law enforcement. And then, as Elise already mentioned, we're doing a peer district comparison, benchmarking against peer districts, department structure, staffing, compensation, training standards, and resources. And the peer districts that we've selected, they're neighboring districts and or districts within the state that have a similar student population that Parkway does. Oh, there it is, okay. All right, so we already covered a few of the things. Identifying the need, that's been done. Memo to the board has already been presented to you. We've convened the stakeholders to come up with the guiding questions as Elisa went over. And so what we have left to do is gather data from the peer districts, which is ongoing right now. The focus group research and the stakeholder survey, those are still to be done. And then once all that is completed, we'll be back here in December to provide recommendations to the board. And that is it. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I'll just say thank you for doing this. When was the last time I guess this is a question. When was the last time we did not just the SRO review, but the security department program review?
So all we know is that it predates 2021. So, you know, when I was looking through the SRO report in 2021, it looked like it had been probably at least 5 years since the previous one had been conducted. And so the one in 2021, it kicked off as something that was more inclusive of both the department and SROs, but I think at the time, the focus really was on SROs in schools and just the impact they were having.
I have a question, and if you said this, I apologize if I glossed over it, but who are your stakeholders going to be and your focus group people? in your research there?
So we're making sure that we include students, staff, and when I say staff, a diversity of staff. So school leaders and certified staff and operations, also parents. So we want to get perceptions and also get a sense from our entire community what their expectations are of our security departments and what they would like to see, maybe what our gaps are, and if there are emerging trends that we're just not aware of. What was that?
And students.
Oh, yeah, students. So we'll be surveying and doing focus groups with middle school and high schoolers.
Okay, great.
So you mentioned that there are 4 SSOs. This was the first time I've heard of SSOs. So they were former SROs that are now.
I was just giving a background on their experience, so you don't have to be a former SRO. So SROs are the school resource officers. They are active police officers, and they work for their various departments. SSOs are school safety officers, and I was just highlighting that 2 of our school safety officers were SROs when they were employed by the police department. So they just bring a lot of experience and knowledge to this position.
So are they in the schools as well, like, I guess the SROs?
So right now, Parkway, and this is pretty common across the nation, actually. Parkway has SROs, so the school resource officers at all the high schools and middle schools. And then the SROs also are assigned elementary schools, although their primary responsibility is the initial school that they're assigned to. So what I do with the SSOs in the security department, I have them focus on the elementary schools since they don't have a dedicated SRO there. And they know to call us if they need anything, and they're very good about doing that. I get several calls from administrative staff at the various schools asking for help with various things.
Any other questions? All right, good luck in your
All right,
work.
thank you.
Okay, we have no special meeting to attend to, so may I have a motion and a second to adjourn the regular meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.